9 out of 10 times a spiritual awakening largely corresponds to a very dark night of the soul. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you how my dark night of the soul actually showed me how to love myself more than I ever dreamed possible. If you're new here, I'm Lisa, and I'm here to help you heal, navigate your ascension journey, and create a life you love. Free resource for you in the description of the video below called Manifesting Myths and Facts. If you want to be a conscious creator of your life experience and really heal what is not serving you so that you can rise into a life that you absolutely love, it is a great resource for you. So today we're talking about how meeting my darkest parts of self helped me to love myself in a way that I really never dreamed possible. I know a lot of people out there talk about self-love and techniques for self-love and lots of things about self-love, but I always look for the people that are truly embodying self-love. And I think the embodiment of self-love is really the vibrational feeling that you get when you're around someone that's excited to be themselves, someone that is compassionate and nurturing, but also empowered and can really speak their wants, their needs, their desires, and who is unapologetic to share their wisdom. I like to think of myself as that person. By all means, if you don't feel that I exude that, let me know in the comments below. I would love to have discussion with you because I know in my heart that I love myself deeply. And one of the reasons I love myself deeply is because I know the dark parts of who I am. I've learned to love the weakest parts of myself. I've learned to love parts of myself that aren't the most pleasant thing for me even to look at. I still love them, and I believe that's how I've learned to embody the vibration of self-love. Now, keep in mind that by embodying vibration, like really where it's coming from the inside out, that's how you start to build your aura and how you start to become more magnetic to your life experiences. So if you can embody the frequency of love, especially love for yourself, more often, that aura is going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to be able to interact with increasingly more potential to truly create a life you love. I believe that I'm living testament of this, right? I went from a broken woman on the floor of her bedroom closet with a pointed against her head to literally one of the happiest women I know. I am blissfully remarried to the second man of my dreams. I love what I do for a living. I love the mother that I am today. I also like the friend that I am to myself and to others. So I'm not trying to gush all over myself, but I am trying to demonstrate what someone with a very healthy sense of self-love, like how they feel. Okay? And I want you to have that joy. Now, part of the journey to self-love is not just meeting the darkest aspects of self, but also giving yourself permission to love who you are. The truth is, we have all been something, are something, and will be something. And it's important to really honor all of that journey. If you can't love who you were and who you are, then it's really difficult to love who you're meant to be. So keeping in mind that having an appreciation for the overall life experience and really taking the wisdom from your wounds as messages, lessons, and gifts to apply to a future where you embody the essence of love is so important. Okay, so let's talk about how I met these dark parts of myself so that I can get to where I am today. So the first thing was that I felt very broken, as I'm sure many of you do, particularly if you're on a dark night of the soul or you've been through a dark night of the soul. I felt like I was shattered into a million different pieces because of all kinds of things that happened in my life, like the loss of my brother, the loss of my husband, narcissistic abuse from both a romantic partner and a best friend, and all the things that literally tore my life apart. So my life had fallen apart and I felt like I fell apart with it. And the interesting thing is that through that dark night of the soul, I realized that, you know what? I was broken. But a better word for that feeling of brokenness is probably more fragmented. So I was fragmented in a way, and I needed to go into the darkness to find the pieces so that I can put them back together. And in that darkness, some of the things that I located were my shadow, a very wounded inner child, and also archetypes and archetypal patterns. So these three aspects of self were the parts of myself that I retrieved and I integrated into the whole. Now, I know a lot of people talk about integration, but what does that really mean? Well, integration, all that really means is recognizing that there are these dark parts and engaging with the dark parts in order to let them know that it's okay. The pain that they have and hold doesn't need to be held anymore because you are ready to take over. So let me give you some examples. My shadow used to be very OCD, like could never handle a mess. When there was a mess, I got anxiety, I got anger, I got all uppity, and I had to clean it immediately. And part of that was because I believed that my external environment was a reflection of my internal environment. And while I still hold that that is very true, a lot of times the messes weren't my own, but my shadow was internalizing them as my own. So I would get very aggressive about cleaning it up really, really quickly. In fact, I would say I was borderline addicted to cleaning. Now, the shadow largely shows itself through anxiety, anger, aggression, and addiction. So I would say that I was borderline addicted to cleaning and making things like perfect in my home for a very long time, which actually interfered with a lot of other things that I needed to be doing at that time. So when I realized that that was my shadow playing out, here's what I did. I recognized when the shadow was triggered, and instead of immediately defaulting into cleaning mode, I paused and I met the shadow where it was. I said to it, this is a mess and it's okay. This is actually not even our mess because we didn't create it. The children created it. And the children created it because they were having fun and they were being creative. So while I understand that it looks like, since this is a mess, that we're a mess, we're not a mess. And so when I started talking to that shadow, it was actually available to talk to me more often. So over time, when I would see messes and that anxiety trigger came on and I would start to get aggressive about cleaning it up, I was able to actually pause and let go. Of course, the messes always got cleaned up, but it didn't hurt so bad to see the mess. The same thing goes for the wounded inner child. I would say that for the vast majority of people, there is an inner child that is deeply wounded because unless you were reared in an environment where you were empowered to believe that you were lovable, worthy, deserving, and more than enough, it is very likely that you have a wounded inner child. I had a deeply wounded inner child because I was in 5 schools before I was in 4th grade in 4 different states. And because I never learned to find my ground, and I always felt like I was being judged by a new set of individuals, a new set of teachers, a new set of communities, I never felt truly worthy, powerful, deserving, and I most certainly never felt like I was enough. So my wounded child was always screaming through lack of self-worth. But when I started to meet her and ask her, what makes us feel so unworthy about this situation or circumstance? We started a dialogue, and that dialogue back and forth is ultimately what helped me to integrate her, because I could use the rational conscious mind to bring her around from the anxiety, the pain, the unworthiness, the unbelieving that she was powerful, to a place where, you know what, girl? Like, it's okay. We got this. And eventually she came in and she integrated. Now, one of the more interesting parts of exploring the darker sides is exploring the archetypes and archetypal patterns. And there are different systems of archetypes. Certainly Carl Jung has one. I think Carolyn Mace uses hers, but I think it is also Carl Jung's. There are different classifications for archetypes. But what I did was I just started to understand my own archetype by the qualities that it displayed. So one of my archetypes was this victim martyr. Victim martyrs always lose. And trust me, I was losing big time. I mean, I think if you asked anyone in my life at that time, is she losing? They would all be like, oh, that girl is losing big time. There was just so much going on in my life, and it just was falling apart. So I found that I was playing this victim archetypal role and this martyr role that really wasn't serving me. So anytime I was triggered to play the victim and to play the martyr, I paused and I came to the victim and the martyr and I said, why? Why do you want to stay here and be the one that's always the victim? Because you don't have to stay there. You can rise above. You can become the heroine instead of the victim. You can become the person that manifests the miracles instead of the martyr. So the more I was in dialogue with the victim, the martyr, the wounded inner child, and my shadow, the more they started to integrate into the whole. And as they started to integrate into the whole, the triggers started to subside. The anger, the anxiety, the aggression, all that stuff started to go away. And I came to a place where I was like, I love who I am. Despite that all of these dark sides existed and exist in theory, but are now integrated, I just realized, I woke up one day and I was like, I love this person. I love this person. I love who this person was. I love how wounded she was. I love how much she's healing. I love the healed states that she's able to be in right now. And that, I think, was probably the most profound part of my journey through my awakening, my dark night of the soul, my healing, and my manifesting journey. It was just absolutely spectacular. And if you have not already experienced that, I pray and wish for you the same thing. You are so beautiful. You are an eternal being of light. You have to find that light and love that light for what it is and who you are. Never forget, you are loved.